watching. The one you shouldn't have killed. Greetings from the fire, and from the one you should not have killed.
My biggest issue with the FNAF series has been logical inconsistencies. I mean, sure, we don't know the full story, so things could make sense in the end, but with what we currently know, there are a lot of things that don't quite fit into place. One of the biggest inconsistencies, in my opinion at least, is what we're exploring today. Greetings gamers and welcome back to Top 10 Gaming. I'm Connor Monroe and this is solving one of FNAF's biggest issues. Let's do it. Now, having inconsistencies is understandable and it's to be expected. Anything that has this kind of lore and this amount of content is bound to have a couple flaws. Take How I Met Your Mother for example. They have Barney driving in multiple episodes, but then later have Ted teach Barney how to drive after some of those moments would have already happened. Or in Supernatural, when in season 2 Dean mentions never having been to the Grand Canyon, yet 6 seasons later Sam remembers a trip when they went there when he was 4. This was admitted to be a mistake on the writer's part, but discrepancies like that are to be expected when talking about a series as big as this. But the inconsistency I'd like to address here is the nightmare animatronics, and I've had an excellent idea that would explain away the whole kerfuffle with them. As we learn at the end of FNAF 4, Crying Child was in a coma for the entirety of the main FNAF 4 game after getting chomped by Fredbear, meaning that every animatronic we see in the main gameplay would be taking place inside of Crying Child's head. So all the nightmare animatronics along with the Jacko animatronics would be created in his mind. And since Crying Child dies at the end of the game, getting the plug pulled or just giving up on fighting, there wouldn't be any way for anyone else to know what these animatronics looked like. Yet they still appear in future games like Ultimate Custom Night and FNAF VR. So what gives? What's the deal? How could this be possible? And I have a satisfactory conclusion that is bound to make some of you mad. And isn't that the best kind? If we go back to a previous theory video entitled We Were Wrong About Golden Freddy on this channel, we can see that I proposed the idea that Crying Child is actually the one you should not have killed. Not many people seem to be happy with this idea in the comments section, but hey, that's alright, I'm a big kid now, I can take it. However, if Crying Child was the one you should not have killed, it would help explain the discrepancies with these animatronics in such an easy way. First, let's go over the evidence again as to how the Crying Child is the one you should not have killed. In room 1280 of Heracles Hospital, something evil is keeping a man alive. A man with gruesome burns all over his body and an iron will to live. The man in room 1280 is the third story of the 5th Fazbear Frights book Bunny Call. The story, written by Andrea Wagner, revolves around a man with, as the book summary described, horrific burns all over his body. His organs are exposed, his face is missing, he has burn marks everywhere. This man was taken off life support years prior to the story, yet somehow is still able to live. He's still alive. The story ends with this horrifically damaged man being taken to a Fazbear Entertainment distribution center where he promptly explodes violently. This story is obviously meant to represent, or very well be, William Afton, who did end up escaping the FNAF 6 fire, but was horribly damaged because of it. The story was meant to show us that William had a soul possessing him, the soul of a young boy with curly black hair, rosy cheeks, and an alligator mask. And the description of the young boy with curly black hair would also fit the Crying Child. This also proves to us that the one possessing William was a male and not a female, so it couldn't be Cassidy. This also explains why we were so confused about the lines discussing the one you should not have killed, since they all refer to him as a boy if it includes a gender-based pronoun. Example, I have seen him, the one you should not have killed.
I have seen him, the one you shouldn't have killed.
There is no reference to any form of female, which we thought made sense because Golden Freddy is a male character, but why would they be referring to a female spirit as the animatronic they inhabited? Also, how could Cassidy possess two things at the same time, especially when one of them is a human? When Crying Child died, there was also no animatronic around for him to possess. It would make more sense for him to possess William since he would have to be in the vicinity after signing the papers to let his son go. Everything lines up for Crying Child to really be the one you should not have killed, keeping his father alive after seeing all the horrific deeds he's committing in an effort to bring him back. Or just because he's his father, after all. He brainwashed Elizabeth, so why not brainwash Crying Child as well?
I am remade, but not by you, by the one you should not have killed.
I am fully convinced that Crying Child was the one possessing his father and keeping him alive, since if that was the case, it explains the other appearances of the animatronics that only Crying Child would know about. Since Ultimate Custom Night also takes place in William's head, which can't be a coincidence, given this series now. That's how the Nightmare animatronics were able to appear and torture William, and that's why the characters who mention the one you should not have killed, Mangle, Withered Chica, Nightmare Freddy, and Jacko Chica, all share some form of nightmare version or connection to FNAF 4. There are also multiple lines that refer to your situation, such as "this is how it feels."
This is how it feels, and you get to experience it over and over and over again. Forever. I will never let you leave.
Which could be referencing being hunted down by animatronics, but why would someone who was killed by William reference gameplay that another character has to deal with? Instead, I think it's a reference to your current situation, where you're in a coma and this is what it feels like. We also know that the sound disc was not to blame for the Nightmare animatronics, since Nightmare Freddy himself says that he was now given flesh.
I am given flesh to be your tormentor.
And the disc can seemingly only alter the appearance of something, meaning it would already need to have at least some form of flesh to alter. These are all hints about who is really possessing William, and it also explains how they're appearing in the next games. Since after waking up from his coma, William could have easily written descriptions down, or created them himself when he was possessing the hard drive that gets scanned to help make the animatronic AI in Help Wanted. Him seeing these animatronics in his coma thanks to his son's spirit is the reason these are in the game, because William brought them in with him. It's insane that it took me this long to figure out, but also I never saw this pointed out in any of the comments on these videos, so it's something that I'm sure a lot of people managed to piece together. It's an elegant solution that easily fits one of the most frustrating elements of the games into place. Now, however, I just need to figure out how Michael knew what Nightmare looked like, so he could draw it in the survival logbook. That's a mystery I'll never quite understand, really, since he would only be able to learn about it if William told him after he learned about them, but Michael burns in FNAF 6, so that should be impossible, because William doesn't learn about them until Ultimate Custom Night, which takes place after FNAF 6. And Crying Child couldn't have told his brother since he died in FNAF 4 after seeing these animatronics, so how could he know? Let me know your thoughts down below. The FNAF 3 bad ending has recently been highlighted as an aid to the point that Golden Freddy contains 2 souls. This is in reference to the bad ending screen with the animatronic heads with lights on, as opposed to the good ending where the souls of the missing children are set free and there are no lights on in the animatronic head eyes. However, while this may be in support of that theory that 2 souls are inside of Golden Freddy, it doesn't have an endoskeleton leg to stand on, and that's what we're exploring today. Greetings gamers and welcome back to Top 10 Gaming. I'm Connor Monroe, and this is the FNAF 3 bad ending analyzed. Now, I've covered this in a reel on my Instagram, something that I plan on doing more of with like smaller theories that may not exactly warrant a whole video, but I have more time here, so I'll be going more in depth this time around. To recap, the proposed theory is that Golden Freddy contains 2 souls, most likely the souls of Crying Child and Cassidy, who is one of the 5 original missing children. They claim this theory is supported by the bad ending screen of FNAF 3 since there are 2 animatronic eyes lit up in the back, which we assume to be Golden Freddy's head. There are multiple reasons that this would happen without the animatronic being possessed by 2 souls though. Firstly, since the entire head is shrouded in darkness, if only one light was on, it would be difficult to make out a proper shape of the head. Here, I made an example. Here's the FNAF 3 ending as we see it, and here it is if only one eye was lit. It's harder to tell that it's an animatronic head, and the only real indication we have is context clues from there being other heads on the screen, and you definitely can't really see the shape of the nose, so it could have been anyone aside from Chica. But we could probably have thought it was Springtrap since he was the main animatronic of the game, or we could have thought that it was Foxy since the other eye was blocked off like he is here. Also, on a similar note, every other animatronic has some form of light splashing over to their other eye, unless it's blocked like Foxy's. This is most notable on Freddy, who has the other eye slightly lit, Bonnie has a stripe of light in the other eye, and Chica has a little bit of light on the edge. So the fact that the other eye is lit is just due to the spreading of the first light, because you know that's how light works. Also notice how the light behind Golden Freddy's right eye, well, his left, our right, is stronger and has a white spot. This is actually the light itself. The other eye doesn't have this, which means that there's only one light behind the 2 eyes. Let's also take a look at the Happiest Day minigame, the minigame that you must complete to unlock the good ending and put all the souls to rest. The good ending has all the lights in the animatronic heads completely off, making the head in the back impossible to see, which means that all the souls are at peace, right? Well, if that's true and this soul was put to rest, at least in the context of this game, we only see one soul wearing a Golden Freddy mask at that party. So if there was really two souls in the suit, there would still have to be at least one eye lit up in the Golden Freddy head, but that isn't the case. The animatronic is completely off, meaning that the single soul in the suit is at peace. And I know what you're thinking, but we see Golden Freddy torturing William in Ultimate Custom Night. Well, while that may or may not be the case depending on what theories you believe, I'm talking about the context of this game. Remember, FNAF 3 was supposed to be the end of the series. That's why there are two endings. This is why there are many questions. But the community was disappointed with the Springtrap jump scare, making Scott feel like he needed to make FNAF 4 where the crying child was introduced. FNAF 4's crying child didn't exist when FNAF 3 came out, so it's physically impossible for them to also be possessing the Golden Freddy suit in the lore of the FNAF 3 game, when looking at how the series was supposed to end originally. So while it may seem like things were pointing this way, they weren't. They couldn't have been. The final nail in the Scott coffin is actually found in one of the series' books, the Freddy Files, updated edition since it's the one I have. I recently got one for theory fodder and helping me find more evidence to support myself and whatnot, but I also wanted to find what Scott himself deemed the most important to the series, and to find details that he highlighted himself. One of those details is about the FNAF 3 bad ending. Quote from page 60, "If you play the game straight through, after the Night 5 end minigame, you'll see an image of broken animatronic heads, each with a lit eye. Faded text in the background reads, 'Bad ending.'" There it is, from Scott Coffin himself, in what is in essence the FNAF game encyclopedia or walkthrough guide, each with a lit eye. A single lit eye, therefore proving that Golden Freddy has one lit eye, and at the time of FNAF 3 there were not two souls inside the animatronic. And while the story may have been changed to make the two soul theory correct, you can't really use any evidence prior to FNAF 4 to support that claim, because it wasn't planned until at least FNAF 4. However, I would like to propose a different theory, something that would explain the discrepancy and suggest a satisfactory conclusion. There were two souls inside Golden Freddy, but at different times, not at the same time, but one after the other, and that the vacancy left by this ending, FNAF 3's good ending, allowed for Crying Child to possess the Golden Freddy animatronic after he was done torturing William in Ultimate Custom Night, since it would make more sense for the Crying Child to be the one you should not have killed, and someone that William did indeed have a hand in killing, whether it be directly through an alternate death which we didn't get to see, him pulling the plug at the hospital, or by creating the animatronic that crushed his skull, since even if Henry was the one who built it, William would have had to supercharge that jaw to make it happen. It would also explain how Cassidy is set free at the end of FNAF 3, how Crying Child could then possess Golden Freddy, since keep in mind the one keeping William alive in the Fazbear Fright story did go on to possess the Stitch Wraith, which could also parallel Crying Child's story of leaving William to go possess Golden Freddy, and how the one you should not have killed would know about the Nightmare animatronics, when they were just a figment of Crying Child's imagination while he was dying in the hospital. They didn't have real forms. William didn't design them with sound discs or whatever, they were in Crying Child's head. Crying Child also being the one you should not have killed explains the references to he being the spirit, not the animatronic, since why would a spirit who's controlling what the animatronics say, as evidenced by the mediocre melodies, reference the gender of their animatronic and not themselves when they were alive? It just seems weird, especially when this person is so mad that they'd keep their killer alive to torture them. They wouldn't think that they are the animatronic that they inhabit because of that killer. And if this is the case, it would also explain why Golden Freddy is seen shaking at the end of the game. It's also poetic justice, since this is how Crying Child died in FNAF 4, in a coma in the hospital, which only goes to further support this point. And while yes, the stories of Fazbear Frights help us to fill in some blanks from the past, the epilogue stories of the Stitch Wraith guide us forward to where the series is going next. So having two souls inside an animatronic is something that will probably be coming into play later on, rather than having been the case previously. Midnight Motorist is one of the games required for the Lorekeeper ending in FNAF 6, and is the most confusing part about FNAF 6, seemingly introducing new characters and new locations. Will we ever truly understand this seemingly impossible game? Well, we're going to try. Midnight Motorist and its theories are what we're exploring today. Greetings gamers and welcome back to Top 10 Gaming. I'm Connor Monroe and this is Midnight Motorist Explored. Let's do it. First of all, the game. Let's take a look at the actual gameplay first, as explained to us by the Freddy Files Updated Edition, so that we know there's no misinterpretation or bias in my script. Quote, during the 4th lap of Midnight Motorist, hit other cars to slow down, then drive across the bottom lane. Eventually, you'll see there is an opening at the bottom of the screen that you can enter. You'll be led to another screen, where it's raining and you're just one purple car driving along a winding road. As you drive to the U-shaped bend in the road, crash your car into the dark clearing in the trees. You can get out, you'll find that your character is yellow, not purple, and walk to an open spot in the trees. In the upper left corner, there is an unmarked pile of dirt. Get back in your car and you'll reach a fork in the road, where you can either go left or continue straight. If you turn left, you're brought to a parking lot where there's a restaurant called Junior's. There's a green man standing outside the restaurant. Park and get out of the car. As you approach the green man, he says, come on, you know you can't be here. Don't make this more difficult than it has to be. Nothing else happens. Get back in your car and then turn right. Keep driving until you reach a blue house. You can get out of your car and walk around the house. The sound of music fades away and is replaced with the sound of rain. The closer you get to your house, the more it zooms in on your character. Go to the front door and enter the house. The game falls silent. There's a person dressed in gray sitting in a chair in front of a TV. The gray person says, leave him alone tonight. He had a rough day. Go down the hall and knock on the door. You'll shout, I told you not to close your door. Then, this is my house. He can't ignore me like that. Then, open the door. And finally, I'll find a way in from the outside. Leave the house and walk around the back. The window is broken and there are 2 sets of footprints, one human and one animatronic. Your character says he ran off to that place again. He'll be sorry when he gets back. And before we get into the breakdown, we've been having a bit of a theory week while I'm on vacation. But if you want more videos deep diving into certain aspects of the FNAF series, be sure you let us know by telling us in the comments and hitting like and subscribing. It really helps us out. Okay, let's continue. Now for the breakdown. Now looking at that, there are a few things that jumped out to me. 1, the book points out that your character is yellow, not purple. There's an emphasis placed on this line thanks to the exclamation mark. The only one in the entire section about the game, to be exact. This must be an important detail to take note of, especially if it's emphasized. Another thing that really jumps out to me is the description of the other characters. Both the green man and the child hiding in his room are both described using male pronouns. Green man, leave him alone tonight, but the one in gray sitting in front of the TV is just described as a person. There's a person dressed in gray sitting in a chair in front of a TV. The gray person says, which seems awfully elusive and intentionally so. And finally, the last thing is the description of what we see outside the child's window. Now it's almost impossible not to know about it at this point, but outside we do see 2 sets of footprints, one human and one not human. But thanks to the design of Glitch Trap's suit with 3 big toes, we thought that this could have been Glitch Trap's suit, making it impossible for this yellow guy to be William Afton like we first assumed. However, thanks to this book we get confirmation that the other set of footprints is from an animatronic. Quote from the book, there are 2 sets of footprints, one human and one animatronic. And since this is an official updated guidebook to the games, this has to be 100% canon. The other set of footprints is an animatronic, so not William's original suit. So what does this mean? Well, there are actually a few theories. Let's discuss them. The first and most prevalent theory is that the yellow man is William Afton. This was started thanks to the similarity of the car used in this game and the car William is shown driving in the Take Cake minigame from FNAF 2, and both scenes are raining. This was further supported by the fact that the secret portion of the Midnight Motorist game is called Later That Night, which seems to be pointing us towards this taking place after William killed Charlotte and Take Cake. This would also explain who the one in the chair is. It could be Michael, who is watching TV like he does at the end of Sister Location's Nights, but some have speculated that it could be the mother, which is supported by the lack of pronouns used for this person, but it could also be used for Michael if he was in fact a robot, since he wouldn't be a he, but I guess he also wouldn't be a person. And the one in the bedroom who was lured away could very well be Crying Child, who was brought to a Fazbear location by one of the animatronics. This is presumably what made William want to make him afraid of the animatronics. This might be why the brother ripped the head off the Foxy plush and started using it as a mask to scare Crying Child. It would also explain the logic of putting Crying Child in Fredbear's mouth. It was another scare tactic, but William didn't plan on the mouth closing, killing his son. The other theory suggests that perhaps this yellow man is not William Afton, but rather his business partner Henry. This is supported by the fact that he is just not purple, and the animatronic footprints outside the window. However, the major flaw with this theory is that Henry is shown to only have a daughter, not a son. So the actual gendering of the child basically ruins the whole idea that this is the Henry Emily household. Another possibility is that the Yellow Man is not Henry Emily at all, but is rather the father of one of the missing children's incident victims who was either captured by one of William's animatronics or by William himself in a costume. But thanks to the Friday files, we know it's an animatronic. And thanks to the pile of dirt the book also pointed out that is also fairly close to the house, it was probably a twisted animatronic, since we know that the twisted ones bury themselves in the ground during the day only to dig their way back up at night. If this is true, then this could also connect the pizza party level in Night Terrors from Help Wanted, where the player starts out in a bedroom which looks slightly similar to the one from FNAF 4, but we know that that room is meant to be the crying child's bedroom since he was in a coma experiencing this dream while fighting for his life. However, the biggest point of contention in this minigame is the yellow guy, or aptly named Mustard Man thanks to the community and mostly matpat. This is the one thread that gives us all the variables. If we know who the yellow guy is, then we know what's going on in this game. The yellow of the character could be a reference to the yellow spring bodysuit that Afton uses to kill kids, since we know that he just came off of killing Charlotte, and that could be what this is referencing. The color yellow on one hand stands for typically positive feelings, like happiness, positivity, clarity, optimism, or freshness, energy, and intellect, but it can also represent caution, sickness, jealousy, cowardice, and deceit. And this may also give us some ideas behind why this character is yellow. If it indeed is William after just killing Charlotte outside the Fazbear restaurant, that could be considered cowardly, especially since he moves on to killing inside the restaurant, or has before. He could have also deceived Charlotte with the bodysuit, but we know he isn't wearing it, thanks to the Take Cake minigame as well as the rain outside, which would have triggered the spring locks. This could also explain why Charlotte was outside. Maybe her father told her to stand in the rain if she could, so that if William came by he wouldn't be wearing his murder suit. If this is William, he could also just be happy about the fact that he killed Charlotte, because let's be honest, he'd be like that. The color yellow is also spontaneous and an unstable color. It is often associated with food and is highly used in children's products and marketing advertisements aimed at children. And with the color yellow and William sharing a demographic, it's highly possible that this was absolutely intentional. Too much yellow causes loss of focus and makes it hard to complete a task. Too little yellow causes feelings of isolation and fear, insecurity, and low self-esteem, which are typical among serial killers. A lack of yellow though can cause one to become rigid, cunning, possessive, or defensive, and all of those describe William Afton. So perhaps color theory is the way we should go when trying to determine who this mysterious Mustard Man is.